I always like to tell the story on Ash Wednesday about a colleague of mine when I was still teaching in Mason City Newman High School, that on Ash Wednesday we were walking up the way from her office towards the gymnasium for the all-school mass for Ash Wednesday on that day. And as we're walking up the way, she says on Ash Wednesday morning, "My, Lent sure is dragging on, isn't it?" And it's like, boy, we're just getting started, you know. That's probably a more appropriate thing to say like today. It's the 5th week of Lent. You know, we've been through 5 weeks of the Lenten season so far. My, Lent sure is dragging on, isn't it? Probably does feel like that for some of us. Especially, you know, that the weather gets nicer, it's warmer out, so, you know, it's like winter has turned into spring. It's just like, oh, can we just kind of be done with this and get on with Easter? That's probably, you know, the way some of us feel. Myself included. You know, we make all of these Lenten resolutions when it comes to Ash Wednesday and everything. Probably most of us, myself included, haven't always done very well. You know, that's kind of a human trait, I think. So I always think that this is kind of a good time for us to kind of step back and to kind of take a little inventory and to think about this. Our gospel today is really a story of mercy and really, in a sense, also of a very non-judgmental heart. And I've been thinking about that a lot because one of my goals of the Lenten season has been to be, in a sense, kind of be less judgmental. You know, there's always an element of judgment in everything that we do, it seems like. You know, and some of it is good. You know, you walk into a room, you walk into a store, you walk into a strange situation, whatever it may be, you know, you look around and you look for people, you look at people and such, you're making a judgment. Is this person a friend or a foe? That's a natural instinct of what we do. You know, is it safe to be here? Is it, you know, good to be over here? Do I need to move over here? Whatever it may be. You know, so constantly we are making judgments of things and of people. But what I found myself doing, and I was thinking about this a lot before Lent began, is that I was making irrational judgments of people. You know, based on their looks or based on maybe where they're at or what they're doing or whatever it may be. It wasn't fair because I really don't know that person's story. You have to be very careful about that, you know? And so I've been really working very hard this past Lenten season in order to, in a sense, kind of change that and to be a little bit more open-minded and such. Some is good and some is bad. You do kind of catch yourself quite a bit. And I realize how often during the day that we make judgments of things, of people and situations and such. One of the other things that I've been trying to do this Lenten season, in a sense, is to kind of step back a little bit, particularly from electronics. So at 7 o'clock at night, I turn off the computer, turn off the iPad. I'm sorry, but I have to watch TV. You know, that's the one thing, especially for the sports, although I don't know if I want to watch the Cubs anymore compared to what's going on there, but that's a different story altogether. But just to step back a little bit, you know, from that. It's very interesting, you know, especially now that the days are getting longer and such, and it's bright out until 8 o'clock. What do you do after 7 o'clock when you're not on your computer and doing things? You kind of find out that, you know, your phone, your computer, your iPad, whatever it may be, really can kind of control you. You discover there's other things to do besides that, you know? I find myself reading a lot more, maybe going out into, you know, in the evening and maybe taking a walk or something if the weather's decent, whatever it may be. Lent is a good thing, you know? So you can say that Lent sure is dragging on, but if in a sense kind of changes some of your habits, changes some of your ways, and I think this is the point that Jesus is making, it's a very good thing. We began the Lenten season with the story of the temptation. After that was the story of the transfiguration of the disciples witnessing Jesus with Moses and with Elijah, and they were transformed by the experience. Then it was the story of Jesus in the parable of the fig tree, of giving it another chance. Don't give up. Allow the tree to continue to grow, and maybe it will bear fruit. Last week was the story of the prodigal son, where the father welcomed the son back into his home with great mercy and great delight. The older son didn't think it was so great. He had a lot of resentment, you know, a lot of judgment within him. but the Father was like, you have to come in. We have to celebrate. And today is the beautiful story of Jesus not condemning the woman who was brought to him. They're kind of left with, when he says, but the one who has no sin, cast the first stone. It's very easy for us to, in a sense, kind of point out the faults of others, but not look at our own. It's very easy to do. So we have to be careful of that. And Jesus, in a sense, stands there just with this woman. The only thing that's left is this woman and the gift of mercy. And Jesus says, then neither do I condemn you. Some people say it's like, well, that's just kind of a blanket slate to just do whatever you want, but they ignore or don't hear the next words where Jesus says, but go, but don't sin anymore. You still have to make a change. Still try to do your best. Still try to be different, if you will. The Lenten season is hard. Many of us probably fell down and didn't fulfill our Lenten duties, whatever we promised ourselves to do, but we don't give up. You kind of keep going, if you will. So this is a good season. If it brings change, that's great. I don't want to be the type of person that as soon as Lent is over, I'm going to go back to doing whatever I was doing before. I truly do want to make a different change in my heart, and that's why I tried to pick goals that would be kind of change positive for my entire life. Hopefully it will be. Hopefully it will be for you as well. Next week is Palm Sunday. We begin the season of Holy Week and our march towards Easter. May it also be a time of grace and uplifting nature for each and every one of us.